Welcome back to the bakery. I am your host, Encyclopedia Bright, and as your chief baker, I'm back with yet another hot slice. Today's topic is going to be school. Now, I don't know about you, but I had to go to school. And for the time that I spent in school, I enjoyed some of it, and I didn't enjoy some of it. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to be educated, to be taught something that I didn't know, and I appreciate that most of that was free, of course, until I got to college. The things that I didn't like about it had to do with what I perceived to be control issues, bureaucracy, things like that. But I'm going to focus on the positive today. I went to Twitter not too long ago, and I issued this prompt. I said, quote or reply with something unique you picked up in school. A subject, a skill, or even a simple fact you learned in class that others might find interesting. And wouldn't you know, some people came out and they broke bread. So I'm going to share some of what they said, and then I'm going to tell you some of what I felt was interesting from when I was in school. So our first participant, first person to break bread, is Twitter user at Surf4Eyes, excuse me. He said he made his first video game, 1942, in Game Maker. He also designed his own sprites, animated and non, for all of the assets of in the game. I really hope that somebody out there in the world understands programming and gaming language, because I'm lost, but it sounds extremely interesting. Next up, we got Twitter user at JustEv98. He said, I learned how to use CAD for 3D printing and a lot of carpentry skills. Now, I definitely would have appreciated learning something about carpentry, although I consider myself kind of clumsy. So when it comes to handy things, I shy away from it. But I think if I had an opportunity to learn, it'd be nice to at least kind of stand on the sidelines and watch. Next up, we have at LimeFaceX, who says, in my technical drawing class, I had to design a machine that could crush cans. And that kind of reminds me of when I was in high school, we had like a robotics team. So, I mean, the idea of designing that sort of thing, and especially if you get to actually practically build it and see how it works, that sort of thing is interesting. But in fact, I want to say, let me see. I asked him if he was able to physically construct it, and he said no, sadly. So, too bad, so sad. But again, we're talking about some pretty interesting stuff so far. Now, this Twitter user is at JohnLucas090, and he says, at one point in the 6th grade, I knew all the capitals of all 191 members of the United Nations and 4 non-UN members, thanks to a weird world geography teacher. But then he says he forgot most of them. So, again, we got some pretty interesting responses here. Now, what about me? Because, hey, this is my experience, right? Well, I've got two. Let's go to my 8th grade year first. When I was in 8th grade, I had a class called Exploratory Science, and the teacher's name was Mr. Key. I feel like his name was John Key. Now, we learned a lot of different things in that class. But the thing that stuck with me specifically is he gave us a list of 30 different types of trees that were native to Southeast Texas. And he taught us how to identify those trees just by looking at the leaf. So we got to a point where, like, we had a test, and he would show, he would literally just show one leaf at a time, and you would have to write down what the name of that tree was. And here we are, 1999, 23 or so years later. The only one that I can identify like that still, that I never forgot, was the Chinese tallow, which oddly enough isn't even technically native to Southeast Texas. It's you'll find it here in Southeast Texas, but it's originally from China apparently. So according to him, it was a weed tree. It wasn't a native; it was a foreign tree. The next thing, which probably is even more interesting, is that I was in a magnet program in high school. So starting at about 10th or 11th grade, the magnet program was aviation. So I got flight training when I was in high school. I was in the cockpit of a Cessna 152 and 172, and I logged about 30 hours when I was in high school for free. Again, something I absolutely appreciated, because after I graduated high school and I attempted to continue this training, it got expensive. So as you can guess, I didn't get a lot more hours after I graduated high school. But yeah, those are definitely two things that I really appreciated. I'm sure there are a bunch of other tidbits, a lot of other things that I heard here and there. Kind of left them out because some of them were, like when it comes to interesting facts, getting older taught me that you got to really try to verify things that you learn in class. Even when the teacher seems to be a credible person, it could just be that they were misinformed. So the two things that I stick with are the being able to identify those trees, like the Chinese tallow by the leaf, and the flight training that I got in high school. But now we bring it to you. Is there something interesting that you picked up in school? A skill you learned, a fact, a tidbit, a subject that you liked that wasn't maybe, like the on the ordinary reading, writing, arithmetic sort of scale? Tap in. Let us know what you got to say. I appreciate everybody's responses, everybody's participation. So that's today's episode. See you guys next time. Break bread.